Too Deep greets the world with a gentle wish, health and peace for all. But inside her heart, weighty questions linger. CEO James, once the man who filled her life with certainty, has almost vanished. His absence is more than silence, it is a shadow that hovers over her every breath. Did he still remember the promise he whispered so tenderly? Or had time and distance worn it away? Now, as Too Deep sits with their little daughter, sharing what should have been a joyous first meal as a family, James is not there. In every bite, in every tender glance exchanged with the child, lies the echo of the man she longs for. He has missed these moments, night and day, and though she smiles for her daughter, her heart aches. It is the ache of absence, but also the stubborn hope of reunion, blended into a love that refuses to fade. The man behind the mask. James was always the man people admired, calm, sharp, composed, and endlessly devoted to his work. His title, his reputation, and his aura made him appear untouchable. But behind the polished image of a CEO stood a man clinging desperately to fragile promises. He promised to rebuild his empire, he promised to protect the woman he loved, and above all, he promised himself that one day he would sit down with Too Deep and their daughter, to share their first meal as a family. That image haunted him. It became a tender dream that replayed during every sleepless night, a vision of warmth he had yet to live. Too Deep's quiet world, life was not kind to Too Deep. She was simple, hard-working, with the softness of the countryside still woven into her steps. Each day, she sold vegetables at the market. Each evening, she cared for their daughter, Nia, with the gentleness only a mother could give. And all the while, she waited, patiently, faithfully, for James, even as chaos swallowed him whole. To her, happiness was never about luxury cars or golden towers. It was about small joys, her child's laughter over a warm meal, or the rare sound of James's voice on the other end of the phone. But storms gathered around him faster than he could control. Betrayal, false accusations, and the schemes of old rivals forced him to disappear almost completely from her life. Some days she wondered, had his silence meant he had forgotten her? Yet still she carried on, whispering to her heart that James was not a man who broke promises. A missing seat at the table. One evening, after a long day at the market, Too Deep treated Nia to a simple bowl of noodles. The child's laughter filled the small shop, her face glowing with joy. Too Deep smiled, but her heart ached. James should have been there, watching their daughter struggle with chopsticks, laughing as soup dripped across the table. This memory should have been theirs. But oceans away, James was trapped in boardrooms, fighting battles of survival. Even when exhaustion claimed him, when his body nearly collapsed, his mind wandered to that scene. He imagined Two Diep's gentle hands guiding their daughter's spoon, her patient voice urging care. He imagined himself across the table, not as a CEO, but as a father, a man in love. The world could strip him of wealth, reputation, even freedom. But nothing could erase that promise. He would return, no matter the cost. Because the first meal with Two Diep and their daughter was not just a dream. It was his life's true purpose. The weight of silence. Weeks passed. Oceans separated them, but the distance in their hearts felt even greater. Two Diep carried the silence with quiet strength. Each morning, she tied her hair back, lifted her basket, and led Nia to the fields or the market. She taught her daughter how to smile at strangers, how to thank each customer, how to share even when they had little. But at night, when the oil lamp flickered low, her thoughts betrayed her. She stared into the shadows of the village and wondered, was James safe? Did he still think of her? Or had the storms of the corporate world swallowed him whole? James in his own battlefield. For James, the boardroom had turned into a battlefield of daggers hidden behind smiles. Former allies betrayed him. Investors pulled their support. His name, once synonymous with trust, was dragged into scandal. Outwardly, he wore the mask of control. Inside, he was unraveling. Each collapsed deal, each sleepless negotiation, chipped away at him. And yet, what held him together was not ambition, nor the empire he had built. It was the promise. Late one night, after endless meetings, James finally collapsed in his office chair. Sleep claimed him, and in that fragile moment, he dreamed of the meal he had not yet lived. Two Diep's smile, steam rising from simple bowls of soup. Their daughter's clumsy joy. Her gentle voice, eat slowly, don't burn yourself. He reached out, but the vision dissolved into emptiness. He awoke with tears burning his eyes, holding on to hope. Back in the village, Nia tugged at her mother's hand, asking, when will Uncle James come back? He promised to eat with us. Two Diep forced a smile, brushing her daughter's hair back. Soon, she whispered. The word comforted the child, but it was as much for herself as for her daughter. That night, as heavy rain poured, Two Diep stood outside, soaked, pulling in her baskets. She thought of James somewhere far away. Would he truly return? Or would storms consume him forever? At that very moment, James was boarding a plane. No more running. No more hiding behind business battles. If the empire crumbled, so be it. But the promise to Two Diep could not. As the engines roared, he whispered silently, "Wait for me, Two Diep." I am coming home. The return. The village woke to another ordinary morning. Vendors called, children laughed, the smell of breakfast lingered in the air. Too Deep prepared food as usual, trembling slightly when Nia asked again, "Is today the day James comes back?" Above the clouds, James sat by the airplane window, watching the sunrise bleed into gold. For years, every mile traveled was for shareholders, for survival, for ambition. But now, every mile brought him closer, not to power, but to love. To Too Deep. To their daughter. To the promise. A reunion written by fate. That afternoon, as Too Deep and Nia returned from the market, the child suddenly cried out, "See, mother, look." Down the road stood a tall figure, suitcase in hand, the wind tugging at his coat. His eyes scanned desperately, until they found them. For a heartbeat, time froze. It was Nia who broke the stillness. She ran, arms wide, shouting with joy, "Uncle James." James dropped his suitcase, kneeling to catch her in his trembling arms. Her warmth seared into him like fire. Then he lifted his gaze to Too Deep, the woman who had waited, silently, faithfully. "I'm here," he said, his voice breaking. "I came back. I kept my promise." Tears broke free from Too Deep's eyes. She closed the distance, whispering, "Do you know how long I waited?" "I know," James said softly, taking her hand. "And every second I was gone, I dreamed of this moment. The first meal at last." That evening, for the first time, they sat together at a small wooden table. Steam rose from the bowls of noodles Too Deep had prepared. Nia giggled as broth spilled from her chopsticks. James laughed, his heart aching with joy, brushing Too Deep's hand gently across the table. It was not the banquet halls of the city, not the grandeur of power. It was here, in the humble warmth of her home, that James finally tasted the meal he had longed for, the first meal with his daughter and the woman he loved. Lessons from a Promise. The story of James, Too Deep, and Nia is not about wealth or status. It is about the treasures far greater than power: love, patience, loyalty, and the innocence of a child. From James, we learn that ambition without balance leaves emptiness. But love, once chosen, can rebuild what ambition destroys. From Too Deep, we learn that love is not always grand gestures. Sometimes it is silent resilience, daily care, and unshaken faith. From Nia, we learn that children do not measure love in riches, but in presence, laughter, and simple shared meals. Success, if it costs us the people waiting at home, means nothing. Promises made in love are sacred. They are the foundation on which trust, family, and life itself are built.